But before we go, I put out on Twitter that I was going to have you on, and I asked a couple of people if they had any questions, and a couple responded. Nice. So I want to shoot a couple your way real quick. Nothing too complicated. I have a friend who follows me on Twitter. He's from Australia, and he wanted to know, how was it when you were playing in the Australian League in the 90s for the Hunter Eagles?
Dude, I had no idea there was an Australian Winter Baseball League until I signed with it. Just so happened that I went the year after I got drafted. So I went from my college season to getting drafted, playing in short season A ball, went to an instructional league, and they used the phrase, "We want you to stay fresh because we're sending you to Australia." So I played collegiate league, a short season league, and then I went to instructional league, and then I went to Australia. So for a college guy, that was rather exhausting for me, but at the same time, it was incredibly exciting because I'd never been to Australia, heard nothing but great things about Australia. And we go out there, and it was nothing short of absolutely incredible. Hunter at the time was an expansion team. We were about 2 hours north of Sydney. So we were in a great location right on the coast. And we come to find out that, there's only 4 international guys on each team. And so it was myself, Neil Weber, Everett Stoll, and Bobby Henley, all from the Montreal Expos organization. And our job is to play baseball. We come to find out that the other 20 guys on our team are working 9-to-5 jobs Monday through Friday. Nice. So we practiced, the 4 of us, by ourselves during the week, and on the weekends we would play a doubleheader Saturday, doubleheader Sunday. So we were playing 4 games in 2 days, which was absolutely insane, but a blast at the same time, because the guys on the team probably played as hard as anybody I've ever played with in my life. They had a huge passion for the game. We're playing on converted rugby fields. Me and Neil Weber were California guys, so we surfed some of the spots out there on the coast, between Monday and Friday. But I had an absolute blast. I was actually lucky enough to I won a Gold Glove, or the Gold Glove. I'm not sure if it was what was going on there, but I had a blast, won a Gold Glove, and would go back in a heartbeat. I love that place.
Was there any unique meals that you had while you were there? I've never been there as well, so I'm kind of unfamiliar with how that all works out.
Yeah. So when you go to a foreign country, you're always worried about what you're going to be able to eat. Mm-hmm. So, we had a couple of the local guys and their families took us in, and we'd go, around. And finally we were like, okay, I'm just starving. I want to go get a burger. I want to, and they're like, okay, you got to go to this place. Australia was the first place that I had ever had a fried egg on my hamburger. And, a couple years later, we, back in the States, all of a sudden it's a thing now. It's like, oh, put the fried egg on your burger. It's super great. I'm like, dude, I was having this like 5 years ago in Australia. But they also, the other thing that was kind of weird to me is they put a slab of cranberry on there. So it kind of sweetened it up a little bit. But I mean, it wasn't anything too wild. I wasn't out there eating, kangaroos or koalas or anything like that.
I was kind of hoping you'd say that, to be honest, but that's all right. That's awesome. No, I mean, I that's one of the places I would love to go to. I haven't yet. I've been Central America, Mexico, but I have not been out there to Australia. Someday. Last question. This is from my friend Emma. She has a podcast that covers baseball and sports in general. She wants to know what you think of the future of this Astros core. Greinke, Correa, Brantley, Verlander. And this offseason, is there a player or position that you think the front office should prioritize?
That's a really, really good question. And we have been trying to avoid this on our broadcast, by talking about them winning so much because, to start the season, the Astros made a subpar offer to Carlos Correa, and he hasn't had any negotiations since. I think that's probably the biggest question: is Carlos Correa going to come back and be an Astro? I'm in the camp that is holding out hope that there is a chance that he does come back because he fits so well and he's great inside this clubhouse. He's great in the community. His wife Daniela has done a good job in the community here, so they're really have grown some serious roots here in Houston. But, will they be able to come up with the number of years or the price tag to keep a guy like Carlos Correa is probably the first biggest question. I think that with the emergence of guys like Luis Garcia, Jose Urquidy, and some of these, in Lance McCullers signing a 5-year deal, I think that he's kind of become the ace of that staff. So as far as Zach Greinke's concerned, he might be pitching himself into free agency. I'm not sure that his price tag is something that is going to keep him around as much as I personally and selfishly enjoy a guy like Zach Greinke, watching him pitch, and let alone talking to him, if you can get some words out of him, during batting practice.
Yeah.
But I don't think that maybe that price tag is going to keep him here. The verdict is still out on Justin Verlander. I actually would entertain the idea of bringing him back on a 1-year deal with with heavy incentives to see if he can bounce back from just kind of backload that thing and say, if you get to X amount of starts or X amount of innings, we start to pay you a little bit more and get back to a number that he feels he deserves because of that Tommy John surgery. He's just a freak athlete, and I think that he might actually bounce back in a pretty good shape. Michael Brantley, fortunately, is going to be here for another year, but the Astros are set up to have some good young talent, and I think that's where James Click, we might see a little bit more of the personality of James Click once you get into the situations where you're trying to keep key free agents, or whether or not you're trying to decide to go young and maybe let go of some of those contracts and some of those veterans. But it's going to be a big offseason. I think that's why there's a little more emphasis here in Houston by this team to maybe push a little bit harder to see what they can do if this is the final year that this core is together.
For sure. No, I completely agree that this core, similar to the Cubs, they had a really several poor years, and then they really hit on a ton of free agents and players and drafts, and they really turned that franchise around into one of the better teams in baseball for the last 4 or 5 years, and it doesn't look like they're going away anytime soon with the talent that they have, the pitching. I'm going to go ahead and end it on that. I know your time is precious, and I want to thank you for coming on the podcast. And I really do appreciate that. Could you go ahead and give your podcast a plug? Because you guys do a good job, you and your co-host.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, myself and a good friend of mine, David Tuttle, played for Team USA back in the day, played 9 years in the minor leagues, never really got the chance to be in the big leagues. But, he kind of brings the pitching side. I bring the defense and hitting side of it. But we have a good time talking about baseball, life, fitness, families. He's a father of multiples just like I am. So we have some interesting stories every now and then. And we're trying to accrue some access to people around the league that really have a passion for the game, much like you do, and bring, some of that to the forefront. But we have a lot of fun. The podcast is called Bleacher Blums. We're on every, platform there is out there for podcasts. We have a YouTube channel. We've got a website. So bleacherblums.com if you want to find out any more information. I really appreciate you allowing me the plug, and thank you for the opportunity to be on your podcast. It's great meeting you.
Absolutely. You as well.